Is an early edition of both America's Mayor Live and the Rudy Giuliani Show, which will be on Lindell TV starting at 7. And of course, America's Mayor Live is always on at 8. But we're not going to miss history, are we, Ted?
Absolutely.
Now, this brings me back. I mean, many of you probably weren't alive when the last mission took place to the moon, which was, let me get exactly 1972. I was a second-year assistant U.S. attorney at the time in the Southern District of New York. I believe I was either living in Queens or I had just moved to the west side of Manhattan. This was one of the most exciting things that had happened. It was a culmination of President Kennedy's promise to take us to the moon. And when it happened in the summer of 1972, it was to a United States. There wasn't a person in the United States except the communists who were quieter then, but still there, who were opposed to this. It was an enormous defeat for the Soviet Union. And then the first time that was the first time that humans had traveled to the moon. And the situation had been that at the latter part of the Eisenhower administration, the Soviets beat us into space. To the consternation of both Eisenhower and Kennedy. And Kennedy promised, well, maybe they did that. We're going to beat them to the moon, and we're going to beat them to outer space. Well, we beat them to outer space with John Glenn, later a great United States senator and candidate for president. And then, of course, this was historic. One small step for man and one great leap for mankind was Neil Armstrong's words that will live forever, as will that mission. And we are now about to revive it with the spirit of another great president, maybe the greatest, Donald Trump. This fell into
copy that. I'll put it in work.
I don't know what you would call it. We got to the moon. We thought that was it, and since then, NASA has been participating in lower space voyages in the space station, in things that have been enormously valuable. You know, the byproducts of what NASA did. We'll do that in a separate show, but I mean, they've saved lives, made your life easier, helped to create freedom. There probably isn't just defined broadly an organization or an effort that has brought more good to the world than the NASA program. And I'm not just talking about the exploration of space and the understanding of space. I'm talking about the byproducts of it, which have been enormous, including, saving a lot of people, saving a lot of lives from cancer. And the byproducts are amazing. And to have rejuvenated, it means we're going to rejuvenate a creation of those byproducts. Of course, this also has something to do with the idea that both the Chinese and the Russians have made very clear signals that they want to dominate space and militarize it. And the only thing that's going to stop that is us, right? You think those European countries that can't even figure out how to help us get the Strait of Hormuz open are going to get us to space? Or are we going to look at a world in which we're going to be dominated by the communists in space? Well, you need a great president to set a great goal, and he did that in his first administration. And this is not let's get clear on exactly what this is. This is Artemis II. There's already been one Artemis flight to check it out, but it didn't go anywhere near the moon. So now this one, with 4 crew members aboard, will really be both a test flight and an actual mission. The test flight is to make sure that all of these systems that have been built work. The mission is to get to the far side of the moon, which we have not explored anywhere near as thoroughly, if at all, as the front side of the moon, and to take pictures of it and to do tests with it, so that we can understand what can be done with it, and can we land there, and what would happen. It's also going to help us in being able to find out what's available to us on the moon. We talk about these rare earth minerals and everything else. Who knows? They could be right there in space, ready for all of us. This is a 10-day mission. And once that's completed, meaning in 10 days, they're going to be splashing back into the Pacific Ocean. And here are the four. How far away from launch are we, Ted? We're going to go straight to launch when that happens. And it would not.
T-minus 10 minutes and holding. So once they get to the
had they put it
countdown,
back a little? I thought we were almost ready to launch.
Yeah, well, they hold at 10 minutes, and the window is between now 6:24 until 8:24. So
I
they
see.
now make
so
a
now,
final
so
decision.
let's see if we can explain that. Right now we're on hold.
Yep.
And theoretically, it's a 10-minute hold, meaning once it resumes, it's 10 minutes. When they resume it, there'll be 10 minutes more to go to taking off. They're going to resume it with some time, assuming everything's right, within the next hour.
Next 2 hours. Is
2 hours at 8:24?
Up until 8:24.
Okay, so we have a 2-hour window in which this flight could take off.
Right.
So we're going to stay on. We're going to stay on with you,
and we can go live if we want to listen in to for a little bit.
And let's listen into a little of what they're saying, and this way we'll catch up as well. And then we'll give you background.
And that begins terminal count. Our new T0 is 6:35 p.m. Eastern Time. 6:35 p.m. Eastern Time. We are now counting down to liftoff of Artemis II. From now on, you're going to hear two voices on the loops. If everything goes nominally, NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding, who's directly managing the launch team, and Alex Bendelos.
Grace, you want to see the rocket take off?
The countdown has.
Sit over here. I'll put you over here.
The countdown has begun, Mayor. We are 9 minutes from launch.
The countdown.
The rocket's getting ready. 9 minutes.
A lot of people ask about whether there's a launch button. There certainly is not.
9:05, 9:04, 9:03.
35:12.
4 human beings on there.
22:35:12.
Gonna go up to heaven.
There you heard confirmation of the exact T0, 6:35 and 12 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. Again, our T0 is 6:35 and 12 seconds p.m. Eastern Time.
Oh, really?
But as I was saying, there's no launch button. This is autonomous. But there is a button that keeps you from launching, and that button allows the GLS operator to pause the countdown outside of terminal count and during terminal count and submit a hold to the next holding point. So the clock won't stop right away. If there's an issue, we'll go to the next stable holding point. This is how GLS configures the rocket and ground systems to a stable point where they can stop the countdown if that's needed. But right now, we are counting down. Our next big milestone, looking to retract the crew access arm.
GLS is go for crew access arm retract.
And there you see the crew access arm moving away. That's the path that the astronauts took to ingress into the rocket. Until this point, that was their way off the pad if they needed to evacuate. But now with that arm retracting, the backup transitions to a launch abort system. And they'll begin arming that shortly. Of course, the launch abort system, great shot there of the crew access arm retracting away. The launch abort system is the tower at the top, and that's what would pull Orion and its crew off the top of the rocket in case of an emergency, whether it's on the ground or in flight. This is critical safety hardware that protects the lives of the astronauts. Starting at T-minus 6 minutes, the GLS will start bringing that and other high-energy systems online, starting with core stage pressurization. Weather is 90% go. The range is go. All systems are go.
GLS is go for core stage tank pressurization.
That means the replenish valve for the liquid hydrogen tank has now closed, and that tank is beginning.
Well, we're
to
going
pressurize
to just talk for a
because
few
that
minutes to get you
hydrogen is naturally boiling
ready for
inside
this.
the tank.
I'm sure you know, having seen this before, that at the very top there, that
We'll get the
little
liquid
tip
oxygen tank a
is
little
the
later in the
launch
count.
abort system. Not going to be gone pretty soon.
Now the team is waiting for
Then
verification.
the service
that if
module.
needed, the Artemis II crew could
Crew
use the
module
launch
is
abort
right
system to
below
pull
that.
Orion
White,
safely off the top of the
right
rocket
below. See that?
in an
Right.
emergency.
That's where they are. That right
Let's listen
below
in for that
the.
call.
Here, look at my pen. I tried to make it like a.
GLS verifies last
Can you show this,
capability
Ted?
available.
And CDRD copy.
Is it on the screen? Okay. Well, in any event, here it is. Now
That's great news.
It
And you
is.
heard the NTD verify that
the
with the
module's right
commander
here. It's going to go,
of the mission.
and the module's right here.
FTSR.
And look what's behind it here.
Now work is
The
being done
Orion,
to arm
the
flight
spacecraft
termination
adapter
system.
behind it.
This is so the range
The
safety can
Orion
send a
stage
flight
adapter,
termination
the
command
engine,
if the rocket flies too far off
and
track.
then the booster rocket.
There's a brief built-in delay, so the launch abort system has time to pull the astronauts safely.
I'm hearing that there might be a delay, Ted. So there you see
High flow bleed check.
right at the top the launch abort
So
system,
the cryo team.
the crew
gets
module,
verification that the RS-25
service
engines, all
module, which
four
they
of
can
them,
get
are in
into
the
for
proper
it's like
temperature
your
range
basement.
for launch.
The spacecraft adapter, the Orion stage adapter, the interim cryogenic propulsion stage that drives it up, the actual engine, the RL-10 engine, the core stage of the rocket, and the booster stage of the rocket
T-minus
at the
4
very
minutes.
bottom. So now it's all going to be activated very shortly. So let's go back, since there's only 4 minutes to go, the experts.
High-speed turbines, which provide pressure to hydraulic pumps that steer the RS-25 engines. We're going to see a gimbal test a little later at T-minus 2 minutes and 30 seconds. This is what allows that to happen. Coming up in about 20 seconds, we're listening for go for purge sequence 4. That's a helium purge of the 4 core stage engines downstream of the propellant valve. This gets all the air and moisture out of there.
GLS is go for purge sequence 4.
Moving through the milestones. All is looking good. Coming up in just a few seconds, we're going to get that thrust vector control actuator test. This is a gimbaling of the engines. There are the 4 RS-25s, 3 of them shuttle heritage, 1 of them built from shuttle parts. And there you see them moving. Now we're going to start moving the power from both the upper stage and the lower stage of the rocket to internal, taking ground power away and now going to battery power.
GLS is go for upper stage to internal power.
All right, power is removed from the rocket's upper stage, the ICPS, and it's been switched to battery. Same milestone for the lower core stage coming up at T-minus 1 minute and 30 seconds. Right now, The 4-person Artemis II crew is 248,000 miles away from the moon. And if all goes well, they will fly by it in 6 days.
Let's go for core stage to internal power.
All right, there's the rocket's core stage, which houses 3 flight computers, is now on its own power. There's no more hold time because there's no more margin on these batteries. So we would have to recycle back to T-minus 10 to recharge if we had a hold. Right now, the rocket does not know what the T0 is, but coming up at T-minus 33 seconds, control shifts from the ground launch sequencer to the rocket's onboard autonomous launch sequencer, or ALS. The rocket will count itself down, but honor any holds that could come from the ground. Now, shortly after liftoff, Houston will take control of the rocket, and my colleague Gary Jordan will take over commentary.
GLS is go for ALS.
Great call out. The rocket is on its own. 4 brave explorers ready to ride the most powerful rocket NASA has ever launched. Sound suppression water is flowing.
15.
And here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7. RS-25 engines lit. 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition. And liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
Good roll pitch.
Roger, roll pitch.
Houston now controlling the flight of Integrity on the Artemis II mission around the moon.
Integrity, AMT high.
AMT high.
On time, passing 30 seconds into the flights. Integrity passes the alternate MECO. Target milestone. Mission Control Houston seeing good performance on 4 main engines. Space Launch System core stage. Integrity, 3 miles in altitude. Traveling more than 1,200 miles per hour. Mission elapsed time, passing 1 minute, approaching max Q.
On, Ponce de Leon.
Stan, we have you loud and clear on Ponce de Leon.
Have you the same?
Communication signal transfer confirmed as Integrity and its crew go supersonic. Approaching 90 seconds into the Artemis II mission. Integrity is 14 miles in altitude, 8 miles downrange, traveling more than 2,600 miles per hour. Minute 50 seconds of mission elapsed time, standing by for main engine throttle down to 85%, ahead of solid rocket booster separation, expected at the 2-minute 9-second mark. We see throttle down. Confirmed separation. Main engines throttling up, guidance converged.
Integrity, guidance converged, performance nominal, upper stage RCS ready.
Copy all, Stan.
Integrity, SM priming complete.
SM priming complete.
2 minutes 45 seconds of mission elapsed time into the Artemis II mission. Thrusters on Integrity and upper stage confirmed in a ready state, ahead of service module fairing separation. 3 minutes into the flight. Integrity, 49 miles in altitude, 78 miles downrange, now passing 5,000 miles per hour. Standing by for launch abort system jettison.
Houston integrity, good last jettison, great view.
Copy jettison. Team Eco 8 plus 02.
We see the same on board, Stan.
And Houston has you loud and clear on Tidris at the Carmen line.
Outstanding, Stan, we have you the same.
3 minutes 50 seconds into the flight of Artemis II, Wiseman, Glover, Cook, and Hansen cross the boundary to space with good comm checks. GPS signals acquired after last jettison now working on internal checks to verify accuracy. Flight Dynamics Officer analyzed the time of main engine cutoff, confirmed at 8 minutes 2 seconds, time of MECO.
Integrity GPS processing.
Outstanding, Stan, we see the same, and we have a beautiful moonrise. We're headed right at it.
Approaching 5 minutes into the flight, Commander Reed Wiseman confirms he has visuals of his destination. GPS guidance, navigation, and control software finishes internal checks and sends to navigation channels.
Integrity 3 engine press.
3 engine press.
On time, now passing 5 minutes 20 seconds of mission elapsed time into the Artemis II mission. At this point, 3 good main engines are all that's needed to carry Integrity to a nominal main engine cutoff target. Though at this time, we're seeing 4 good engines here in Mission Control Houston. Integrity, 75 miles in altitude, 330 miles downrange, approaching 10,000 miles per hour.
Integrity looking good at 6 minutes.
Same on board, Stan.
Good trajectory and engine performance. Booster officer will soon report the shutdown plan to Flight Director Judd Friedling, expected at the 7-minute mark. Integrity, 78 miles in altitude, 460 miles downrange.
Integrity, expect nominal shutdown.
Integrity copies nominal shutdown.
Six minutes 40 seconds of mission elapsed time. Shutdown plan is as expected. Again, the time of MECO was confirmed at 8 minutes 2 seconds into the flight. Seven minutes of mission elapsed time. Throttling down as we approach the abort once around option. Milestone at the 7-minute 30-second mark. Now 84 miles in altitude, 650 miles downrange, traveling more than 15,000 miles per hour.
Integrity, AOA open.
AOA open.
The window is now open for an abort once around option that would target splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. Still following nominal ascent at this time.
And we're on. Welcome back. And we are now, how many minutes into this?
8 minutes.
About 8 minutes into this. I think very, very soon another rocket's going to break off. But this is what it looked like. I don't know if you can see this. I used this for my 4.5-year-old granddaughter, Grace, who's watching it very intently. And she thought it was a good, because we have it in back of us, she thought this was a pretty good replica, right, Grace? This was pretty good. It looked pretty much like it. So when it took off like this, right? But you see those two? They broke away. And I'm pretty sure this one has broke away too. And now it's going up. Eventually, a lot of this will break away, because this is also a booster rocket, and all that'll be left are, in essence, two capsules. The Integrity and the backup capsule, which contains, really, it's a storage capsule, and also the emergency capsule, if God forbid something happens to the one in front. And then behind it, you can see the red. Behind it are the rockets that will eventually really be its propulsion for most of its mission. And when it comes back to Earth, you'll see it's just a little tip, rather small. The capsule, which is the size of a van, is that what she said? The size of a van. The other capsule, which is approximately the same size, a little smaller, and then the powerful rockets right behind it. They're going to go. The spacecraft itself is the Orion spacecraft. The space launch system. The space launch system was built by NASA with a lot of help from SpaceX and Blue Origin. The spacecraft itself is an Orion spacecraft, and it's going to be a 10-day flight. It's going to go 4,000 plus miles beyond the moon. There's manual control of this spacecraft, communications to Earth, heat shield performance and re-entry up to 5,000 degrees of Fahrenheit. In other words, they're going. This system could fly into something that is burning at 4,000 to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and that test is a test to determine, how far it can go, and what it might have to encounter on the backside of the moon, and then of course we have and further, Mars and further. And I think we introduced the crew at the beginning. I hope we did, because these are the real heroes here, as well as every one of those people on the ground. These are remarkable Americans and Canadians. Reed Weissman is the commander. Victor Glover is the pilot. Christina Koch is the mission specialist, and Jeremy Hansen, who is Canadian, and he is the first Canadian to go to the moon, and the first non-American. In the case of Victor Glover, he's the first black person that there was one schedule for a mission that I think was aborted. I'll get you his name, but he was a mentor to Victor. Christina Koch is the first woman to go to the moon. So there are a lot of firsts. I think there'll be even more as we move along. These are 4 names that have now been injected into history at a very, very high level. The launch was from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, named appropriately for the president who started this. Hopefully there'll be one name for the president who revived it. They will, there's going to be, the return is in 10 days at enormously high speed. And the splashdown, we're all going to be holding our breath. This is the most powerful rocket that's ever been built by NASA. And we think, I don't know if any military rockets are more powerful than this. I doubt it. So this may be the most powerful rocket ever activated. And the Orion part of it is the crew, is both capsules, the crew capsule and the service capsule. Originally, this was targeted for earlier in the decade, and difficulties emerged, as you might imagine. So the schedule was organized about a year and a half ago. And this was scheduled as a 2025-2026 window. And the window was until June. So it's happening right in the middle of that. So it was delayed from 2025, but it seems to have happened just on target here in 2026, which means that right now they're on schedule for Artemis III and then 4 and 5. Artemis III will be another a mission doing further testing, which should happen in 2027 or hopefully early 2027. And then Artemis 4 and 5 are 2 attempts to get to the backside of the moon in 2028 to complete President Trump's promise of getting us back to the moon and getting us to parts of the moon we've never been to. Now, should that not happen, I mean, it would be no different than the Kennedy promise really was fulfilled in the Nixon administration, if I'm not mistaken. It was they said 1968, 69, 70, something like that. We'll check to be absolutely sure. This will be the furthest that humans have gone into space, so it's quite a test. It's quite a test of what conditions and problems exist when you go that far on human beings. It has to work flawlessly for 10 days. Any problem, any issue. Well, I can't say that any issue would delay the schedule for the next Artemis, and then eventually for the 4 and 5 are the ones that are intended to actually land on the backside of the moon. And this SLS launch system is the most powerful ever, but it is described as not yet routine. I think it's only been launched 1 or 2 other times. What does that mean? That means there could be hidden problems, but we hope and pray that that's not the case. I lived through the tragedies that occurred in space, and they're very, very hard and very, very difficult. This is considered to be not only preliminary to reaching the moon again, and again, the backside of the moon, part of the moon we've never landed on. But this is also considered very much as part of the program of getting to Mars. And it builds experience for multi-week missions, which going that far we don't have. And the partnerships here were directly with Canada, and although not listed, with European countries. We'll try to find out which ones partnered and helped with it, particularly since they don't seem to help with anything else. Maybe they can get a little credit for that. So this is considered like a bridge to Artemis III. So first, this one has to prove that everything works with humans. Artemis III has to fulfill a few other objectives, but mainly show that it can be sustained another time. Whereas the landing part, they'll get close to the moon, but they won't land on the moon. And I don't even think they'll technically be within the moon's orbit. They'll be able to observe it, they'll be able to see it, and they'll get very close to the moon's orbit. But they're not going to go right down and land. The next Artemis, which is roughly a year from now, will go a little further, but really replicate this to make sure that we weren't lucky with just one flight. There's no luck involved with NASA. And the differences with Apollo missions, of course, that are the stuff of history now, are that the technology there was all analog. Of course, now the technology is all digital, which means it's light years faster. The crew diversity, it was all male and all American. This is diverse and international. The mission goal, which was race to the moon, the goal now is to go beyond the moon. And what's the purpose is for really to prepare for long-term lunar presence. I mean, there are people like the president who is a great pioneer, who see the day in which there'll be human colonizing of the moon. And since right now there don't appear to be any people there, you know, we won't get it. We won't eventually in history be unfairly defamed by the people who try to do it to Christopher Columbus and the people who came to America, as if America really was owned by anyone or settled by anyone. Well, that's a different story, right? So the whole purpose of this is to prove it works with humans, and that it can sustain all of the tremendous pressures that happen when you go this deep into space with such a powerful propellant. And this is all for the purpose of humans being back on the moon after a delay of 50 years. That's what it will be when we eventually get there. So you just watched the beginning of history, the beginning of a new chapter in history. And this is probably a third or fourth or fifth chapter of maybe one of the greatest books written by Americans, our exploration of space. And as I said earlier, and there'll be so much on this over the next year, what comes out of this for the good of mankind, humankind, oh, fabulous. So we're going to take a short break now as we get ready for our show on Lindell TV and also on X. So you just stay on X, and we'll be back very, very shortly. Or you can go to Lindell. You can go to Lindell TV. We'll be back very shortly. God bless America. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news, even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax, channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly, where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast. These deals are selling out.
U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani. This is the Rudy Giuliani Show on Lindell TV. If you have been watching, we were on X since about 6:30 watching the launch of Artemis II, which has gone off very successfully, thank God. And we will be going back. We'll be going back periodically to it as we cover the many items that and stories that exist today that we want to make sure you're ready for. And then, of course, this is quite a exciting and quite a full evening. At 9 o'clock thereabouts, the President of the United States is going to make an address. Now, the address was said to be about the war with Iran, and but I'm sure he's going to also address this historic launch where, he's really the first president since John Kennedy to have this extraordinary dedication to pushing us forward in space. And it's really unfortunate that we took all those years off, not just because of the fact that, we could have learned a lot more about space in that 40 plus years, but the byproducts that came from the effort to go to the moon initiated by John Kennedy were maybe as important, if not more important, than actually getting to the moon, which politically and now scientifically was very important. But all the things that were developed that have helped to improve human life, improve human learning, cure diseases, save lives, it's so extraordinary that it's impossible really to count. And there's no reason to believe that resuming that great quest, the impossible dream, is going to do the same thing. It's also going to lift the morale of Americans who, right at this point, and I'm sure this will change, and because the press wants to, unlike back in the 60s and 70s, the press wants to do everything it can to beat down America. I don't know why. You have articles that people really aren't interested, and there's no real enthusiasm. And well, I don't know who those people are that don't have enthusiasm for going back to the moon and the backside of the moon and getting to Mars. Very, very probably communists who know that America will get there first, and maybe just a bunch of ignorant people or people who've been brainwashed and maybe they're part of the group that spend too much time in front of their screens and not enough time accomplishing anything. Maybe we'll increase the number of people who get the hell off their screens and start accomplishing things. Well, tonight is a Passover. This is probably one of the oldest, if not the oldest, continually celebrated worldwide religious holiday ever. And it is a testament to the strength of the Jewish people. It's also a testament to what can happen when you put together a group of people under an umbrella of worshiping God. I am in the process of reading through the Bible this year, all of it. Several weeks ago, I did the whole book of Genesis and Exodus and Leviticus. I'm on Numbers right now, so I've just been through the story of the Passover in the Holy Bible, right here. The most successful bestseller in the history of the world. Old Testament, New Testament. And I used the Catholic version, of course, because I'm Roman Catholic, and also because they have more books of the Old Testament than the Protestant version. And depending on the Hebrew version you use, they have even more books that are recognized, but somehow not recognized. And in any event, this is the Bible I grew up with, and it's the one I'm the most familiar with. It just takes a lot longer to read because there are a lot of additional books. The story that is behind this great feast is really told in Exodus, but there are scholars who have found and believe that the first Passover is actually in Genesis chapter 18, and that's where Abraham and Sarah were visited by angels who informed them that although Sarah was old and Abraham was very old, right? They're going to bear a son 1 year later. And tradition records that the visit and then Isaac's birth was on Passover. Now, how do they determine that it's Passover? And I will tell you, this is not universally agreed, although I don't see why you want to fight over it. Believe me, the fighting over every word of the Bible is hilarious. And not just between the rabbis, but the ministers and the priests and the monks and oh, wow. Now, it's not stated explicitly, but you will note that Abraham instructs Sarah after it is found out that they're going to be blessed with a son that turns out to be Isaac, right? To knead some cakes, ugat, for him and their guests, which means they're going to have a feast to celebrate. Now, this is the same term that's used regarding the Passover matzah that their descendants would eat every year on Passover. Thus, for many, the conclusion is that this was really the first Passover. Here's the matzah. Let's take a big one that I haven't chewed on already. A pristine one. There. I love matzah, by the way. A lot of people don't. I do. Isaac's descendants, by the time, were then known as the people of Israel. And they eventually, as you know, ended up in Egypt, where they were enslaved. The idea that slavery began in America is the most absurd, woke, anti-American bit of propaganda ever created just to hurt America. And by the way, it didn't start in Egypt either. It goes way back. And God commanded Moses and Aaron to go to the Pharaoh and demand the release of his people, the people of Israel. And each time that Pharaoh refused, he brought down a plague on them. Blood, frogs, lice, 10 plagues in all. The final one was, of course, the one that leads to the story of Passover. And the final plague was the death of the firstborn children of Egypt. And he had Moses and Aaron go to Pharaoh and demand that his people be released, and told that the firstborn sons would be killed if that didn't happen. And then God instructed Moses and Aaron to prepare the people of Israel and tell them to bring a sheep to their home. And on the night that he was about to have the angel of death accomplish the fulfillment of the threat that he made to the Pharaoh, the Israelites were told to slaughter the lambs, eat them that night, not leave them for the next day. In fact, what's left for the next day should be burned, and to eat them with unleavened bread, which is what this is, with unleavened bread, and with herbs, maror. And then they were instructed to take the blood that, of course, comes from the lamb and to smear it on their doorposts. And that would be a sign to God and to the angel of death that this was the home of an Israelite and it should be passed over. And when death was visited upon the firstborn in other homes, the people of Israel were spared that conclusion. At the same time, God instructed them in very, very powerful language that Passover, and he called it a statute, a law, however you want to interpret it. He enacted a law, decreed a law. What was the law? That Passover should be celebrated every year on the anniversary of their exodus from Egypt. At the full moon, on the first full moon of the first month of spring, which in those days was called Abib. Now, at various times that has changed due to circumstances, which we'll mention a few, but the others, this is a great story to read, and it finds itself all throughout the Old Testament. I mean, Passover was one of, if not the most significant event in the lives of the Hebrew people, and one of God's initial signs and most powerful sign that they were the chosen people. Something that some Jewish scholars have tried to de-emphasize because they believe that has created some of the hatred of the Jewish people. I can't dispute that's the case. I think that's unfortunate because it's the word of God in the Bible. And I think the more you try to avoid it, the more you emphasize. But in any event, he passed a law requiring them to celebrate every year the first full moon of the first month of spring. The entire story, although it goes beyond just the book of Exodus, is described as the Exodus, but it finds itself played out in Exodus and in Leviticus and Numbers and Deuteronomy, until finally the death of Moses and their ability to go to the Promised Land, which was delayed by 30 years. A year after Exodus, God instructed the people of Israel to bring the Passover offering on the afternoon of the 14th of Nisan and to eat it that evening, roasted over the fire, together with matzah and bitter herbs, as they had done the previous year before they left Egypt. But this was done in the Sinai desert. There were, however, certain persons who had become ritually impure through contact with a dead body and could not therefore prepare the Passover on that day. They approached Moses and Aaron, and they said, and this is in Numbers 9, 6-7, "Why should we be deprived and not be able to present God's offering in its time amongst the children of Israel?" In response to their plea, God instructed Moses and Aaron to set up a second Passover on the 14th day of Liar, another month later, a little later on, as a second Passover. It's called Pesach Sheni, for anyone who was unable to bring the offering at its appointed time in the previous month. So I don't know how often there were two official Passovers, but at the time of the second Passover, God gave them a pass for a second Passover. Now, another significant Passover is the first one in the Promised Land, when they went into Canaan. After being delayed by 40 years because of their unfaithfulness, right? And Moses, as you know, although he brought them to the Promised Land, never entered the Promised Land. He died 5 weeks before the Passover, on the 7th day of Adar. And according to the book of Joshua, when they got into the Promised Land and Passover was fast upon them, Joshua organized the circumcision of all of the Israelite males, something that they hadn't been able to do when they were exiled in the desert. So that must have been quite a preparation for the Passover, where the entire male contingent of Israelites who hadn't been circumcised, born in the 40-year period of exile, hadn't been circumcised. A lot of business for the Moyles and a lot of screaming and yelling going on. But the children of Israel encamped in Gilgal, and they made a Passover sacrifice on the 14th day of the month at the evening in the plains of Jericho. And that's in Joshua 5:10. And then throughout the Old Testament, there are references to Passover celebrations with King Hezekiah, who revived it, King Josiah. The Passover that was celebrated in the second temple, and the celebrations continued in the second temple for 400 years until at about 70 AD, the temple was destroyed by the Romans. And that's where the Wailing Wall is, that you often, if you've gone to Israel, where you've gone and placed a request of God, you put it in the wall, or you see on television all the time. That Wailing Wall was the wall of the second temple. And very observant Jews will point out that their celebration of Passover is incomplete because they've been unable to celebrate it without the sacrifice of the Passover lamb in the temple. They go through the required prayers and recitation in the I think it's called the Haggadah, of the story that I just told you in brief outline. They eat matzah and herbs. They have 4 celebratory cups of wine during the meal, and they read the Haggadah, which again is the biblical story of the delivery from Egypt. So let's begin with a little unleavened bread. And have a blessed Passover. We'll have our second glass of wine when we go to X at 8, Ted. And then we'll have one in the middle, and then we'll have one at the end. And by the time we're finished, I'll be ready for bed. Now, what would happen at a Passover Seder now, if you've never been to one, is the Haggadah would be read usually by the senior person, the grandfather, the father, the rabbi. But there's a great participation in it, particularly from the children. And then various rituals and ritual eating of different foods and Really fascinating. If you haven't been to one, ask a Jewish friend to invite you to one. So Allison Steinberg is with us. We'll move on to our story of the fascinating argument in the Supreme Court today, of which I listened to a good deal of it. Allison, tell us your analysis of it. What you think and what you heard and and sort of your prediction. Mhm. Oh, great. What a bunch of freaks.
Yeah, I mean, we're not. Yeah.
No, this is good.
Yeah, just keep going, Jason. We're live on Twitter now.
Well, did you just pick them out, or is that a fair representation of the morons who are outside of the court? No, I know. I know. I've seen them. I've seen them. I've seen it. I used to live right across from the Supreme Court in the during the Reagan administration. I used to see the justices come in and out. It was really fascinating. It's also an unbelievable thing to argue in front of the Supreme Court, which I did when I was in the Reagan administration. I was glad to see the president win. I mean, he should go on something. I mean, this will define America, possibly forever. This it'll be very hard to get a constitutional amendment passed in the fractured country we have right now. So, should the court adopt this sort of kind of very loose definition, the scholarship is on the side of the Trump administration. The practice of 140 years is on the side of the people against it. But if the Constitution has been incorrectly interpreted, as it was with race, as it was with women's rights, in so many areas, it should be corrected. And there's no question that the people primarily responsible, the senators who wrote this, believed that it did not apply to people who were not under the political jurisdiction of the United States. So the justice is using criminal jurisdiction. Well, when they wrote jurisdiction of the United States, she's acting as if anybody who can be arrested or prosecuted in the United States, that would be what jurisdiction meant. What the senator said is jurisdiction means people that have full allegiance to the United States, not people who have allegiance to a foreign power. And one of them, not Gorsuch, I'm sorry, one of the other justices, it could have been Sotomayor, asked a question like, well, why are you talking about allegiance so much to the Solicitor General? Well, he's talking about allegiance because the people who wrote the law talked about it constantly. And they kept making the point that in order to have the birthright citizenship, you had to have an allegiance to the United States. And if not, you can't be a citizen. And the one case they kept talking about, the Wang Kimar case, is a case in which the two Chinese parents were lawfully in the United States. They weren't illegal. So let's see what happens. I do think, unless there's a real disagreement, I do think they'll get this done by the end of the term, because they've had a lot of time. They've had a lot of time before this. It's not as if this was a big surprise for them. They've been thinking and writing about this for a couple of years. So it seemed to me that certainly there are three against. We can just count on it, right? And no matter what the arguments are, they might as well not even be there. It's just like wasting time. Um, Justice Thomas sounds like he's definitely understands the argument. Alito seemed to take the lead in doing that. But even Amy Comey Barrett and Gorsuch seem like they understand the complexity of the legislative history. So Roberts asked one or two questions, was very, very careful not to give away his position. And Kavanaugh only asked a few questions. So those are probably the two that'll get you to decide the case, where they go. Well, that guy there, can I ask you a question? The first guy you interviewed? How long has it been since you took a shower? All right, okay, good. I would just make sure I took all the disinfectants I could find tonight if I were near him. Great job. Yeah, right. Great job. What a great sense of humor she has. She's terrific. I love to tease with her. She's absolutely terrific. But that guy was so dirty looking. And I don't think, I was teasing her, but I don't think Ted can tell you this. You've interviewed crowds like that, Ted.
Right.
And what she put on is a pretty fair representation of what the scumbuckets look like outside the court.
Right.
I know look, just because they're protesters and they have a First Amendment right to do it, doesn't mean I have to think they're clean or sensible and they don't look like a bunch of freaks. I mean, and their position is not so crazy. I mean, it's not as if in this particular case, it's like, supporting Hamas, it's a rational position. It's been the position and the legal interpretation for 120 years, whatever, 130 years. There are a lot of very responsible legal scholars who hold that position. And this would be a case that if they reach the conclusion that because of stare decisis, the need to have consistent interpretation of a law, you could make a contrary analysis of the legislative history. I think that'd be a little more dishonest. But this is not one of those where whoever comes out on the other side is being dishonest or crazy. Or this is a great legal question that would be terrific for a law school class. It would certainly be terrific for the course of people taking law school about statutory and constitutional interpretation that has rules, but they're not rules like a Supreme Court decision that sets down a rule of law or a statute that's passed. They're rules that are most often used. For example, the plain language rule. The plain language rule says that if a statute or a constitutional provision is absolutely obvious from the plain language of the statute, there is no need to go into the history of it in order to flesh out the meaning of each one of the words, if it's not ambiguous. So the first part of it, born in the United States, the plain language of it is pretty simple. It means inside the United States, in the United States. However, if you're an American, if you and your wife, or I and my wife, let's say, have a child, and we have our child in Berlin, our child is still an American citizen. We sort of moved away from the plain language, didn't we? That's not born in the United States. Now, if you're a diplomat and the child is born to you in an American embassy, well, but what happens if you're a diplomat born in an American embassy, but you're born in an Italian hospital? I'm sorry, you have to find a broader interpretation of born in the United States than just the language allows, right? Born in the United States means pretty simple. in the 50 states or territories thereof. And if you're born in Vietnam, you're not born in the United States. If you're born in Puerto Rico, you're born in the United States. Except the law stretches it further than that to come to a more logical conclusion that American parents who have a child overseas, let's say you're pregnant and you deliver in your 8th month and you have to rush back to the United States, but the kid's not a citizen, can't be president. So now we have the second phrase, under the jurisdiction of the United States. Well, jurisdiction of the United States is not subjected to a plain meaning interpretation either, because jurisdiction of the United States means jurisdiction for what? Jurisdiction to be criminally prosecuted. Jurisdiction to be served with a civil lawsuit. Jurisdiction to have to comply with rules and laws concerning driving and other things. Jurisdiction, as they point out, meaning what happens if you have allegiance to another country. So if you're a Chinese citizen, right, like an American citizen abroad, right, and you have a child in America, the child is a Chinese citizen. Well, if under the jurisdiction of the United States has a broader meaning than just criminal jurisdiction, and the meaning is that you are tied to the United States, allegiance to the United States, then that person who has an allegiance to some other country wouldn't be a citizen of the United States. So, and then that creates the situation of what happens to the people who are here legally, right? Even people who are here and become citizens that have dual citizenship back there. So if you have American citizenship, America considers that, and you do, you have to renounce the other citizenship to be an American citizen. And if you are here legally, the concept is if you went through the process of being here legally, right, as the family in the Kim von R case, then that's a sufficient allegiance. But if you're here illegally, there is no nexus to the United States. So you're not under the jurisdiction of the United States based on the meaning of the 14th Amendment. So this is what they'll be arguing about. Now, most likely, in probably most of their cases, as I understand it, the Supreme Court justices have already voted once. The practice as described by people who are really not allowed to talk about this, right? But they do. Practice as we understand it, who are not in those conferences, don't get to hear them, is that the way most chief justices run the court, just so that everybody can get on record right away, they'll take an initial vote after the argument before they all disband for the day. And it's a very non-binding vote. It's really for the purpose of the Chief Justice doing his job, which the Chief Justice assigns the writing of the decisions. Now, you can write a concurring or a dissenting opinion on your own, where you're joining two other justices, but you have a slightly different view, even though you're voting the same way they do. But there's only one decision for the court and one main decision for the dissent, and that is determined by the Chief Justice. So in a case like this, there is absolutely no doubt, unless he's in the minority, that Roberts would write the decision. In enormously important cases, the Chief Justice writes for the court, unless he's in dissent. So let's say that he takes a vote today, and the vote is 5-4 to uphold Trump's decision and to uphold his interpretation as the correct reading of the Constitution. 5-4. Well, he would assign to himself writing the majority opinion, and he would talk over. He pretty much let the dissenters decide, but they decided with him. So let's say they selected Justice Jackson to write the dissent, and it's a 5-4 decision. There could be other opinions that are written in which people agree with the conclusion of the chief or Justice Jackson, but they want to add a reason or they want to detract a reason. And I suspect this case will have 4 or 5 opinions, and you'll have to do a little chart and you'll end up with 5 in one place upholding Trump's view, 4 disagreeing, or it could go the other way. I think the votes in question are the ones that I mentioned. I think the Chief and Kavanaugh, and I'll have to go back. I listened to the argument. I have to confess, and this is not meant as a criticism, and it could be my hearing, which isn't the best, and I use hearing aids, and I didn't have them on this morning, so that could have affected this. But I had a little trouble understanding the solicitor, John Sauer, whose arguments, by the way, was superb. I mean, you can't fault his argument. He gave the right answers that should be given, and some that you wouldn't even anticipate it. But he has a little bit of a harsh, I think, a harsh voice, and he talks very, very fast, which for a New Yorker usually isn't a problem. But I had a little trouble following him, so I want to get the transcript and read it. And I think I'll get more out of it because there are things I think he said, and I'm not sure. Because to me it seemed he was saying it too fast, but it could be this as well. But in any event, I began all of this by thinking that there was no chance that they'd do away with birthright citizenship. And I now get pretty close to 50-50. Still probably a little bit tilting toward the side that they're not going to overturn so many years of precedent. But as I continue to look at the history, what we would call legislative and amendment history, I'm much more impressed with the fact that they, and I am absolutely positive that they never intended to cover something like this. If they had an opportunity to tell us what they think today, they'd say you're crazy. So let's take a break, right? We should take a break, and we'll be right back, and then we'll check up on where the mission is, okay? U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax, channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly, where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast. These deals are selling out.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans. No Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans. No Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness.
And we're back.
Welcome back to the Rudy Giuliani Show, and maybe we should get an update on the Artemis II flight, which is going off into space and head to the moon. 10 days, back in 10 days, coming down to the Pacific, and it will, for the very first time, give them, and then give us an opportunity to explore the backside of the moon. And this is all done for several reasons, one of which is to prepare for a landing on the moon, which will be one more Artemis launch after this. There'll be an Artemis attempt 3, and then there'll be an Artemis 4 and 5, and those are intended to land on the moon. So let's see where they are. When we checked before, the booster rockets, I think all of them have disengaged, which means it's being propelled into space by its main rocket. And so it's made up of a little cone, the cabin for them called Integrity, the storage cabin in the back, and a massive set of rockets from, I think, the rockets. Well, I'll get all the right attributions in a second. Let's see if we can check. Let's see if we can check with the mission.
Yep, we're about an hour and 15 minutes in. As of now, everything seems to be.
And what are they just showing the rocket continue to ascend?
Yep.
And headed
We're
toward
up in space now.
Oh, they're showing a picture from the rocket itself outside.
Right.
So that you see the outside version.
Right.
You see what's remaining with the rocket.
Right.
Yeah, that's amazing. What would really be interesting, of course, there's the moon. You can see the moon, if that's on right now.
Yep.
So it's headed for the moon. Amazing. And eventually, if you want a little breakdown here of it here, if we can show this, just so you understand what happened. I'm gonna do for you what I did for my granddaughter Grace, because I built this little thing for her to show her how this all works. So if you first look at that, you see it that the launch abort system, right? The little cone at the top there looks like a golf tee, actually. Then you see the crew module. That's the Integrity. Okay, that's where the 4 astronauts are. Then behind it is the service module. That's where a lot of their equipment is. And I think they can access that if they have to. I'm not absolutely certain. The spacecraft adapter and the encapsulated service module panels, well, the panels hold it together. The spacecraft adapter adapts the spacecraft to the Orion stage adapter, which adapts it to the Orion, to the rockets, right? And the propulsion stage there, and the main R10 engine, the core stage. So now I think at this point, this is what's happened. It takes off like this. If you can come back to me, Ted. It takes off like this. On either side of here, those 2 smaller pens are the what they call the solid rocket boosters. Okay, very shortly into the trip, as it ascended, they fell away, and that went away. And now this is heading up there. See, beyond. Oh boy, there it goes. I don't see it anymore. And and it'll be back after it goes around the moon. And there'll be like a 30-minute break in our ability to transmit back and forth at some point when they go toward the back of the moon. I think that's toward the end of the trip, but about 7 days. Then they'll go around the back of the moon a couple of times. Now, technically, they're not going to be in the moon's orbit. They're going to be a little outside of it, but they'll be able to see it. And then they'll come heading back to Earth. And ba-boom, they'll land in the Pacific Ocean. And God willing, everybody will be in great health, and they will have made another great leap for mankind. And they will. What great people, great human beings, great Americans, and a Canadian. And the bravery is awe-inspiring. Absolutely awe-inspiring. The war will get you up to date on that as soon as we go over to X, and then it will be on X leading up to the president's remarks, which last night he said would be about the war, both what we've accomplished, where we are, and where we're going. And I suspect there would necessarily be some comments about this extraordinarily historical and important event that just occurred. So So, you remember the pilots that were shot down at the very beginning of the war? They're all flying missions now. That's what America has serving it. Like three of the four people that you see going up there. I mean, their patriotism is unparalleled. Unparalleled. The Secretary of War posted pictures today of his secret mission over there to boost the morale of the troops, which is one of the things that I think that this Secretary Pete Hegseth is just unparalleled in the way he's been able to motivate the troops, and his relation with General Kane is like that, and it has to be that way. So we'll see what the president has to say. We'll talk about it in a few minutes. So thank you very much for joining us on Lindell TV, and we'll be back tomorrow night. Dr. Maria is going to be on at 9, and we urge you to see her. Now, if in fact you watch the president or something, you can pick that up. You can pick, as you can us. And actually, more people watch us after the show is over than they do during the show, by a lot. So we have no reason to believe you have to watch it tonight. You can watch it tomorrow. More than pretty much double the audience, maybe sometimes triple it, right, Ted?
Right.
And then on weekends, it's extraordinary.
Right.
Then they have 2 days. So again, let's this time add to our prayers, not just the people who are in harm's way overseas and people we always pray for, of Israel and Ukraine and Iran, and of course, people of the United States and the president. Let's pray for those 4 astronauts. That you deliver them home safely, God, during this very, very holy season for Christians and for the Jewish people. God bless America. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost. cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly, where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code Rudy. Act fast. These deals are selling out.
Sequencer, or ALS. The rocket will count itself down, but honor any holds that could come from the ground. Now, shortly after liftoff, Houston will take control of the rocket, and my colleague Gary Jordan will take over commentary.
GLS is go for ALS.
Great call out. The rocket is on its own. 4 brave explorers ready to ride the most powerful rocket NASA has ever launched. Sound suppression water is flowing.
15.
And here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7. RS-25 engines lit. 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition. And liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
Good roll pitch.
Roger, roll pitch.
Houston now controlling the flight of Integrity on the Artemis II mission around the moon.
Integrity, AMT high.
AMT high.
On time passing 30 seconds into the flights. Integrity passes the alternate beacon. Target milestone. Mission Control Houston saying good performance on the 4 main engines. Space Launch System core stage. Integrity, 3 miles in altitude. Traveling more than 1,200 miles per hour. Mission elapsed time, passing 1 minute, approaching max Q.
On, Ponce de Leon.
Stan, we have you loud and clear on Ponce de Leon.
Have you the same?
Communication signal transfer confirmed as Integrity and its crew go supersonic. Approaching 90 seconds into the Artemis II mission. Integrity is 14 miles in altitude, 8 miles downrange, traveling more than 2,600 miles per hour. One minute 50 seconds of mission elapsed time, standing by for main engine throttle down to 85%, ahead of solid rocket booster separation expected at the 2-minute 9-second mark. We see throttle down. Confirmed separation. Main engines throttling up, guidance converged.
Integrity, guidance converged, performance nominal, upper stage RCS ready.
Copy all, Stan.
Integrity, SM priming complete.
SM priming complete.
Okay. Okay. Welcome to America's Mayor Live. I have an assistant for a bit tonight. She's an expert on rockets, right? She's an expert on rockets, and I built this little mock-up for her, which we're going to play. We're going to play rocket later, right, Grace? This is Grace Giuliani. Grace is the son of Zavil and Andrew Giuliani, and she's going to have her own microphone here. Grace will have her own microphone. That's your microphone, Grace. Here. There we go. Here we go. All right. Very important that Grace get to see this. It's a historic event. She already knew when I first told her. She already knew about this big fire that sends it up. Right? Remember you told me that. Mm-hmm. How did you know that? You read about it, right?
Because I read about it.
Yeah, she read about it. So I showed her that it looks like this, right, Grace?
Mhm.
Let's see, it's set up like this. Let's see it stand.
I
Let's see.
can make it.
Yeah, you can do that. Show them what happens. and then this one comes off too. Go, keep going. There it goes. And then it keeps going up.
I want to do it again.
Want to do it again? Okay, here, let's get one more of these. Let me see if I can find one more of these. Here. Well, that's too big. That one's too big. We got to find a little one like that. Here.
And then we need the cap.
Oh, we did this one too, right? Okay, now one. I'll say 3, 2, 1. Then you take off. All right. Keep it down there. 3, 2, 1. Take off. yeah. We did it. Congratulations,
It
Grace.
landed.
You landed now. 10 days from now, we're going to land, right? And we're going to say a nice prayer now for those brave astronauts, right? Grace goes to church every Sunday, right? And she's a good girl, right? You have a good mommy and daddy?
You have a cool pop-pop?
You got a cool pop-up? Well, I don't know about that. How about Dr. Maria? Yeah, oh yeah. She's looking at Dr. Maria now. There she is. Who's that girl on TV? That's me. Okay. Well, what we'll do now, so Grace can have a little time to reorganize that. We'll take a short break and make a little money, and then we'll be right back. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans. No Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
These deals are selling out.
Well, we're back, and it seems like I have a permanent assistant now. Grace, let's show. Yeah, there she goes. She figured like the people on Newsmax and the other shows, she would fix her hair a little different. Notice they have different hair all the time. Now Grace has different hair. So, do you a question for do you recognize Grace that way? Do you think your friends recognize you, Grace? No. Oh, well, she's fooling her friends. She'll make occasional appearances during the rest of the show. Oh man, it's the greatest thing is to have grandchildren. You know that, right? Right. God's blessing. So they're going to go around the moon. They're going to be back in 10 days. During this period of time, they will. It's about 4 or 5 days. They approach the moon. Then they do their orbit around it. And then they get to the backside of the moon. And then they're disconnected from us for a short while, which I don't know if that's like a tense period. I guess it is for the people on the ground, right? About are they going to be able to reconnect? And look, the whole thing is tense. What they're doing is inherently dangerous. We want to say that everything has been done over and over and over again by NASA to make this perfectly safe. And what they're doing is inherently extraordinarily dangerous. And they're doing it to further human knowledge, specifically about space and flight into space and possible colonization into space, possible scientific advances from things that can be extracted from space. If it's anything like the first NASA project, it'll be a miracle to the world, a blessing to the world. And even if it's half like it, it'll be a blessing to the world. So I think we have our good friend Stephen Schumacher, who made his way, I'm not sure exactly where, but closer. Oh, there he is, Stephen.
Yes, sir. I'm actually in Titusville. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Now, how far were you and what did you see?
Oh, my goodness. And I apologize for the light here. It's a little bit off, as you can see, but I wanted to get the moon in the background because that's the target tonight, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you see, I'm in Titusville, which is across.
You want to center yourself, Stephen, in your shot.
Oh, and I'm trying my best here. Let's see.
Yeah, that's good.
And
perfect.
so
Now you're perfect.
Okay, good. Anyway, so I'm in Titusville and it's across the way, and I'm not even really exactly sure what this body of water is called, but people were lined up. And if you check my Twitter handle, and I think I replied to some of yours, you can see the crowd. I posted pictures of the crowd. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And you've never had a friendlier crowd. People were, educating each other, letting each other remember. I don't know if you remember the eclipse, but like people were letting each other use their telescopes and their equipment and explaining things. And then we ran into some launch issues and some safety issues, and it wasn't even, we were updated quicker than anything because there were so many people on the shoreline where I was monitoring it so closely. So I feel like I knew everything almost as soon as everyone else did, over across the way. And man, it was so exciting when it went off.
What was the sound like?
The sound, so my understanding is that the sound this evening was not quite as much as it normally is because of something about the weather dampened it. But I will say this, it was loud and it was delayed. So as you know, like sound travels slower than light. And so it was a rather pronounced delay between the time that I saw the rocket go up and the incredible acceleration that it showed. Oh my goodness.
Did you feel it?
You felt it.
What do you feel on the ground?
Awe. And you know what? It's honestly, and I'll go back to where the eclipse is. I was with a group of people, like a large group of people, and everyone was sharing the experience of just wonder, right? And so that rushes through you. And man, is it cool. And no one there is like there to have a bad time, right? Like no one's going to watch the rocket launch.
We didn't have any freaks there who were trying to wish us ill or
Oh, the opposite, actually. And when I was setting up my earlier shot, people were asking who I was going on with, and I told them, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, tell the mayor I say hello, and we're rooting for you, and everything like that." But
Well,
man,
that's great.
I gotta just say that was something else. That was something else. Wow.
Well, we're gonna have
And
to take.
I just got, and you know what? Actually, this was one of the other issues we were having is bandwidth. Everyone was trying to upload, so I just got my launch video uploaded, and so but it's incredible. Oh my
Okay, we're
gosh!
gonna take a look at it.
Oh yeah, and then also, if you want to nerd out on all the lenses, oh my gosh, the amount of lenses in this
Oh, I would have
little,
gone crazy. I probably would have gotten distracted with that instead of.
Oh, I know. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But
Well-
it was fun. It was a great experience. And like I'll try to it's getting a little dark, but I'm gonna try to give you a little perspective. So across here is kind of where the launch was. And let me try to see if I can get
Where those
you.
lights are. Yeah, it's hard. It is hard to see.
Yes.
I see lights over there.
Yep. And then again, the target being the moon here. It's a little confusing with it being
Yep, yep.
mirrored, but yes, you can kind of get an idea.
Well, we'll come back a little later. Okay.
Oh yeah, sounds good. But yeah,
All right.
thanks
Great
for having
job.
me. Good to talk to you.
And if you can hitch a ride, come down and see us. Maybe they have a couple of little tiny launchers that'll take you to Palm Beach.
Oh yeah, see what NASA's got in the toolkit.
I mean, if
Probably
they went to the
something.
moon, all you have to do is couple of miles. You know.
I
Put you
saw
in a
some
little
pontoon boats. I might grab a pontoon boat and
Yeah, or
ride
maybe
down
a
to you
little.
guys.
Maybe they have a little capsule they can shoot you here.
Yes.
For the occasion, Stephen.
Yeah, you look good. You look good. God
Thank
bless.
you. As do you.
That must have been a heck of an experience. Too bad we weren't there. We
Yeah.
thought about it at the last minute, but we didn't think we could get set up in time to do it. So let's first straighten something out because this kind of annoyed me, and I knew it when I read it, and I thought, oh gosh, this is a bureaucratic mix-up. On Palm Sunday, several Catholic prelates, led by the Catholic cardinal, the prelate of Jerusalem, Pier Battista Pizzaballa, a very, very distinguished cardinal, and three other bishop, cardinal level priests were attempting to get into the Church of the Holy Sepulchre to say mass. It was going to be, although I don't know that the police understood that originally, it was going to be a fairly private mass. And for several weeks now, they've been attempting to have all of the congregations, Jewish, Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, try to limit themselves to about 50 people because there have been several rockets that have come. One about a week ago that came very close to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and which would have destroyed it. And of course, even more critical is people, large groups of people. So they were originally turned away, and that went viral. And of course, the haters of Israel and the haters of the Jewish people jumped on it like the Jews are at war against the Catholics. Well, it was straightened out, within an hour or so by the prime minister and the President Herzog. And within a short time, the wonderful Archbishop Cardinal issued a joint statement with the president of Israel in which the Cardinal expressed their sincere gratitude to President Herzog for his valued and very helpful intervention. And Christian prayers for peace during the Holy Week in Jerusalem will proceed, despite the risk and the death rattle that is going on all over from the clerical regime in Iran that is trying to, which is dedicated in the Quran, which I have over here somewhere, to the destruction of those Catholic prelates, Christians, and they do a heck of a job of it. So, of course, those who seem to, including my friend, I'm going to make sure I get this correct. including first French President Emmanuel Macron condemned it, the violation, as disgraceful. Last time he went to church, it was to escape his wife punching him, which I think she does regularly. Remember, she got caught punching him in the plane.
Yep.
We can't tell because you see only the after effects of it. I don't know. What I'd really like to know is, does she ever punch him and knock him down? Because maybe she's got, who knows what kind of punch she has, right? Well, that guy who, when he ends up in church, the church like shakes. And then the communist creep who loves the murderer Xi Jinping and the murderer Putin, who is an avowed communist atheist, was shocked at what happened on Palm Sunday. I'm not even sure he knows what Palm Sunday is. So they all got a chance to go crazy. Of course, Tucker Carlson was outraged. Tucker Carlson had, from that little piece of information, concluded that Christians are being targeted by Israel because the police told the 3 prelates they shouldn't go into the church. And of course, the reason they did it is because it's a very dangerous area, right? And it applies to the Orthodox, it applies to the Protestants, and it applies to the Jewish congregations and the Muslim congregations. So this is a complete, another just gratuitous Jewish hating indication from Tucker Carlson, who is making a complete, I don't know what he's making out of himself. Where did this hatred come from? Or is it paid for, as some people say? I don't know. He was rumored to be anti-Semitic from the first time I ever heard about him. And I used to think it was unfair. I mean, now what can I do? I mean, it seems like it's the first reaction. When I heard this, my reaction was, this is unfortunate because they're trying to protect them. And the Cardinals, of course, would rather take the risk. And it got resolved within an hour or two. It wasn't a war between the Christians and the Jews at all. It was resolved the way sensible human beings, which would not apparently not include Tucker Carlson, would resolve it. Now, even more concerning than that something is going on the right that is that I don't think we can ignore this, Ted. What is this? What is this anti-Jewish? So Jack Posobiec, right? Mm-hmm. No, we know Jack, not that well, but we know Jack and we like Jack. Mm-hmm. So he says, as soon as he hears about this, never forget that the Crusades were defensive and justified. Defend the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Mm-hmm. This is based on Israeli police telling the cardinal not to go in and have mass because it's dangerous. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what justifies the comment? Defend. First of all, the Jews weren't involved in the crusade.
Right.
Yeah, the Crusades involved the Muslims, Jack. And why do we need you to lecture us?
That's the question.
Why do we need Jack Posobiec to lecture us when there seems to be a mistake or misunderstanding that occurs between the police and the cardinal and the archbishop that gets resolved within an hour? And I don't know, a person of goodwill would immediately see that this was just a stupid consequence of everybody being under real tension, given the fact that they're this close to being killed by the out of control crazy Muslims, which I guess he agrees are out of control crazy Muslims, because he goes on to say what really is an attack on the Muslims, which is that the Crusades were not defensive. I'm not sure exactly. I don't know if I exactly understand what he's saying. Never forget that the Crusades were, Crusades were defensive and justified. Yes, the Muslims at the time, as well as many now, were dedicated to the annihilation of the Christian religion, and of Western civilization. Yep. And yes, they wanted to take from us Jerusalem, which is a secondary holy place for them, a primary holy place for the Jewish people, and where all of the significant religious and theologically significant events of the Catholic religion, Christian religion, take place. It's from Palm Sunday to the resurrection, and then the 40 days that Jesus spent on earth. All of it happened in Jerusalem. So the two religions that are really have Jerusalem as the most critical city in the world are the Jewish religion, which for 2,500 years has been attached to Jerusalem, in and out and part of it. And tonight, in a Passover service that's 1,500, 2,000 years old, we'll say, as Jews have said for every one of those years, next year in Jerusalem. That's the way the Passover Seder ends. And Jews have no connection to Jerusalem. That's where the first temple was. That's where the second temple was. Christians have no connection to Jerusalem. That's where Jesus entered to great fanfare on Palm Sunday, as we celebrated earlier, a couple of days earlier. That's where tomorrow night we'll have a commemoration of his Last Supper and his creation of the Eucharist, which is the core of our religion. That's where he was captured by the Romans, based on the betrayal of Judas, brought to Pilate and Herod, and eventually scourged, and crown of thorns put on his head, and eventually delivered over for crucifixion. Died, and 2 days later rose from the dead. All of it happened in Jerusalem. All of it within the confines, the most important parts of it, starting on Holy Thursday, in the confines of that area that Cardinal Pizzaballa was in the other day, an area that was hit by a bomb a week ago that almost destroyed it, by the Muslims who have been seeking to destroy Christianity from the day Muhammad announced it. Yes, he killed lots of Arabs, his own people, the way the Ayatollah does. Yes, he was dedicated to the wiping out of the Jewish people, but he was also dedicated to the wiping out of the Christian people. Now, Jack Posobiec makes this strange statement. So maybe if Jack can explain it, I just say, okay. So my experience with Jack is he's a good guy. I don't see him. Hey, that was my experience with Tucker, too. His statement is completely off the wall. Christians are being targeted by Israel. Just the opposite. It was Israel that went into Syria to protect the Christians who are being slaughtered by the Muslims. We were reluctant to do it. And Bibi did it. I can tell you because I've been to Jerusalem and I'm a little older than Jack. When Jerusalem was split between Arab and Jewish, the Arab part of Jerusalem encompassed the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. And when it was handed back to the Jews, it was a shithole. Feces inside, animals inside. And what the hell did they do to the church in Bethlehem? For years. In fact, originally they held hostages there, including, well, I don't know. I'm going off the point. But in any event, I will not go off the point now, because none of these defenders of Christianity, one of whom is an atheist and the other of whom is one of the biggest phonies that ever lived, Macron, and the other, Tucker, has become one of the best known haters of the Jewish people in the world. Never resisting some attempt at fake news or false accusations like this. However, on that same day, 12 Christians were slaughtered by Muslims when they were trying to celebrate Palm Sunday in Nigeria, the country in which President Trump announced that there was an attempt to annihilate by the Muslims the Christian people, and he was roundly criticized by all of the lousy newspapers that it really isn't that organized. They just kill them here and there. Not that organized. I mean, it's one of the cores of the religion is to eliminate Christians and Jews in order to create a world dominated by Muhammad and his pagan god, Allah. Yes, Allah began as a pagan god. He was one of four. And Muhammad, in between epileptic fits, was taken to heaven by Gabriel from the Church of the Holy, from the Dome of the Rock. That's the connection of the Muslim religion to Jerusalem. I told you what the Jewish connection is and what the Christian connection is. The Muslim connection is somehow, if you believe this, somehow Muhammad fell asleep on the Dome of the Rock. And while he was sleeping, he was visited by the angel Gabriel, who picked him up. And I guess using one of those Orion rockets, took him up to paradise or down to paradise. And there he had a great time. He met all the prophets, Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Joseph with his beautiful coat and everybody else. And then he met Jesus, who he said was a great guy, not God, of course. And his crucifixion is completely falsified by the apostles. And he's not really particularly special. He's another one of the prophets, not one of the most, Abraham is not one of the most important prophets, but he's an important, but not, obviously not as important as Muhammad. And then Muhammad, of course, met Allah, the pagan god. And he became the most important prophet, and they all wished him luck and patted him on the back. And then he woke up at the Dome of the Rock, or they say the Aqsa Mosque, where that's the site of it. And then he found his way back. I guess maybe he called an Uber camel, and he got himself back to. I guess he was hanging out then in Mecca before they threw him out. And he went back to Mecca and he told everybody about his little journey. And they said, "You're effing nuts, Muhammad. Get the hell out of here. We know you. You were brought up here. You're a middle-level family. You're uneducated. You're gonna. Who's gonna write this book for you? You can't read and write. And it's gonna get interrupted by these fits that you have every other day when you get on the floor and you spit out all kinds of white stuff." And they, of course, concluded that he was possessed by the devil after a short while. And the scholars say he had. The scholars say that he had epilepsy, and others say that he was a paranoid schizophrenic nut. He sure was a murderer and a pedophile. I guess murderers and pedophiles can create religions. Well, Henry VIII created the Anglican Episcopal religion, right? And he was a murderer, right? Your head wasn't safe near him. And he wasn't a pedophile, I don't think. There's no indication that Henry was a pedophile. He was a ladies' man. I mean, he had a lot of activity, which a little strange in the head of a religion, but I mean, the thing that's really strange is he was a murderer. I mean, you just weren't safe. You just weren't safe near him. And then a number of Christians that he wiped out was Catholics that he wiped out were unreal. And then he turned on the Lutherans, on the Protestants. And that's the reason you have like all those counter-Protestant movements that ended up coming to America because Henry VIII persecuted them. I mean, he died. Most people thinking he was still a Catholic. He had straightened the Catholic Church out. It really, where there were kings, the king should run it. if I'm correct, the mass was still said in Latin when he died. It was Elizabeth I who changed it. Elizabeth II was a wonderful queen, and Charles III will eventually be the Caliph of England. And they're going to change. I mean, the people say, is the royal family going to end? I don't know if it's going to end, but it's going to change into a Muslim family if it keeps going in the direction that it's going. So I guess we'll call him Caliph Charles I. So we have Ali Reza with us. Ali Reza, Jeff Sardardi, right before the president's remarks. And I think, unfortunately, tell me I'm wrong, Ali Reza, but have they executed several more people?
Good day, Mayor. I hope everything is fine with you. I know you're very active on this issue since Monday, when the execution of 2 MEK members took place, and then another 2 yesterday.
Yeah.
And God knows what's going to happen because there are particularly 2 others who were in had the same file as the other 4 who were executed. And then you're actually looking at the pictures of the 4 that were murdered by the Iranian regime. But there are 2 others, Wahid Bani Amirian and Abul Hassan Montazar, that anything could happen to them. But there are also a number of, these are the 2 pictures of Wahid Bani Amirian and Abul Hassan
Well, those
Montazar.
are the 2 there. Those 2 gentlemen.
Yeah, these are the
one
2
young
that,
and one more older. I mean, it was the first day. It seemed like they were more senior members of MEK, and then the next day it was kind of the younger members. And there you have one more elderly member and one young member. I mean, is this now a pattern? Ali Reza? I mean, this is 3 days in a row, or at least 2 days for sure, and possibly a third day. Is this a pattern?
Certainly, the regime has started a wave of executions of political prisoners. They're actually handpicking individuals to murder them because all of these political prisoners that they have killed or they're accused of, that they want to kill them, they were all members of the MEK, and according to the regime's own judiciary, they have been accused of recruiting people, but also making weapons, acquiring resources, safe houses, plotting and even targeting the headquarters of repression in Iran, like the Minister of Intelligence is specifically mentioned, which is, as you know, the intelligence apparatus that spies on the individuals, arrest them, put them in jail, torture them, and then, basically saying that these people were part of a network that is intended to overthrow the regime. And they were trying to convince the rest of the population that the only way really is to end the rule of the clerics is to fight them. So I think that by itself is a clear indication that where the fear of the regime comes from. This is in the midst of the war. Remember, this is very different than 2 months ago or after the war. This is a situation that when the regime turns on its own people and the public in the midst of the bombings and the war, that tells you that they see the real enemy, not those bombs coming.
Absolutely.
The real enemy is actually their own population. And it's not even just in general terms, population, it's specifically those who act as the engine for change, who have a history of fighting this regime, who have the capability and intent, who have the commitment, who have the leadership, who have a trend, a history of fighting the regime, and they go after them. And of course, these were prisoners who were arrested, some of them 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Some of them spent several years in prison.
One of them was in prison for several years, and he was let out. And then about 8 or 9 months ago, he was arrested again.
Yes, exactly. That's the case. And, so all of these prisoners have a history and the commitment. And that's why the regime went after them. And it wasn't just the execution, Mayor, because they went through a lot of torture because the regime wanted to force them to repent, appear on television, do an interview, and denounce the organization, endorse the regime, just to save their lives. Actually, there's a clip that the regime later on showed, and they were trying. It's highly redacted, but they wanted to show that that one of them actually, Puya Obadi, was actually he did an interview, but that clip that shows that he says, "I'm not going to talk, I'm not going to interview." He takes out the microphone. So you can see the determination.
That's a war crime, and it's a violation of international law. And where the hell is the Court of Justice that indicted Netanyahu and his minister in Israel? And the mayor of New York wants to arrest Netanyahu if he comes to America because of the International Court of Justice. And this is a straight violation of international law. You're not allowed to take prisoners and use them for a political purpose. And they do it constantly. They were doing it all during the Gaza war as well. But so do you have that clip?
I think maybe.
Oh, good. We're going to try to find it and play it.
Shows
play it.
Yes, if he can play, then he says, he refuses. He says,
all right,
I'm not going to talk.
Now, these last two that you had up, is the information, I gather the information is not totally verified that they've been executed, but the belief is that they have been. Is that correct?
No, we don't know about their whereabouts, but we know that they were taken away from the group along with the others. We have no idea. They could have been killed, or they could be killed, the next day. Who knows? But we know that they were sentenced to death. The Supreme Court of the regime had approved it, and they were in the same file, supposedly the same crime, which is for freedom. That they were taken away, and those four we know confirmed that they were executed. So my point is that this is a trend that the regime has started the same way they did after the 1988, the end of the Iran-Iraq war. In order to cope with the consequences of the war, they turned against their own population, and that's what they are trying to do here. But I think this whole thing is going to backfire because it signals to the Iranian people that, this is the only way. The level of determination, now a lot of the letters of these really heroes are surfacing. Some of the messages they sent from inside prisons, that the tapes that they said, saying that, we're not going to back down. There is a story today in the Sun paper quoting actually Mohammad Taghawi, who has a tape just before his execution. He urges the others to go ahead and overthrow the regime. He said, "I'm here. I will remain committed." He's asked on TV if you accept the charges that you were involved in the protests and attacking the regime, and he says, "Yes, I did. And if I go out of here, I will do exactly the same thing." So that level of commitment is a really
that's a martyr. Yeah, I mean that's somebody of extraordinary courage and commitment.
Yes, all of them are like that because the whole purpose.
I remember when the group was stuck in Iraq. We were trying to get them to eventually Albania. And they were the Quds force would be allowed to pick off a group every so often. I think they killed 100 or so, 120 or so. And they were also trying to turn people. I mean, they were trying to grab people and trying to make them into informants. And they were torturing them. The UN wouldn't do anything about it, no matter how much we complained. Nobody turned. Well, at least they never successfully obtained anyone doing that. But they must have taken 20, 30 people and tortured them for that purpose, with the UN right there.
Actually, there was one case that when they attacked the place, a young woman, Sabah Hafbaradaran, she was shot and hurt very badly, and she was bleeding. And then the father actually happened to be there. The father comes in, and the regime Quds Force people, a lot of Iraqi agents, they told the father that we can take your daughter immediately to hospital and save her life, but that requires that you abandon the group and you come and denounce the thing. And then Sabah herself, the girl, hears that thing, and he calls the father. He says, you should slap them in the face. And I will never waver. We are here for a reason. We are here for freedom. If we wanted to have our own life, we wouldn't be here. This is the story of the prisoners, that there were the 4 prisoners that were killed and the others who are on the death row now, that they are acting as a motivation, a symbol for the generation. Their message to the people is that this is the end of it. It can't get worse. These mullahs have gone to, they have no limitations whatsoever for cruelty. We need to pay the price to end the regime. This is very important because this separates the MEK, which has truly dedicated to overthrowing the regime, not now from, for 4 or 5 decades, but they're willing to pay the price. They're willing to confront the Russian guards.
You've paid the price in massive amounts of blood. But beyond that, also in illustrating this to the world for so long, I mean, you've brought around hundreds of United States congressmen, generals, leaders from all over the world. I remember the conference in Paris, the one that unfortunately now is noted by the fact that they wanted to blow it up and got caught doing it. But I don't know how many world leaders were there, or at least retired world leaders. I know the former Prime Minister of England was there. Seemed to me that there were about 8 or 10 former heads of state that were there, and they were going to try to blow it up, and were caught with massive amounts of explosive devices, all the plans, just about 4 days before. So the idea that Europe, Western Europe, is taking a pass on this is absurd. I mean, like, they don't care that they want to come there and do murder in their country. Eddie Rama cared. He threw them out in Albania.
Yes.
Eddie told me nobody's coming to Albania and do murder. We have enough murder here with the Albanians. We don't need these people coming and doing murder. But that's the right thing. That's the right thing to do, to throw them out.
Absolutely. This regime doesn't understand any language but the language of firmness, decisiveness. The regime has to pay the price for what they do. That's why you have the MEK in the forefront of the fight against the Revolutionary Guards, showing especially the younger generation, especially after the slaughter in January of this year, how thousands upon thousands of people were just simply slaughtered in the streets of various cities. So the strategy of the MEK has been, and I think it's further proven right, that you combine the outrage of the population with a force to confront the Revolutionary Guards. You can't just have, this is not the time of the Shah that you can sweep the regime out of power by millions of people showing up. This regime has the experience of the Shah. This regime has built the entire infrastructure for repression and terrorism and missiles and all of that. So you need a force internally to confront it. That's exactly what the NK represents.
Absolutely right. And it's a regime that has distinguished itself by killing more of its own people than anybody else. Even if you think about this war going on, they've killed more Iranians than they have Israelis, Americans, or even the attacks they make in Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Qatar. They've killed a few people in each of those places. But the 13 Americans, how many Iranians have they killed? I mean, 40,000, 50,000?
120,000. These are political executions. This is not random. 120,000, one by one, handpicked by the Iran regime. Add to it the number, the people they slaughtered in the streets during the protests, the uprisings.
120,000 historically. But I mean, in this present situation, from the time these demonstrations began, the number, I've heard the number as low as about 30 or 35,000. And as high as about 40 or 50,000. And that's in addition to historically the 120,000 that they killed.
Absolutely. And
these MEK members are added to the numbers that you have recorded. And I remember every gathering we would have was preceded by Madame Rajavi having us pay respects to the people that had died in that period of time. Yes. And it was always unacceptable. I mean, I'm talking about years when it was unnoticed, and maybe it was 40 people, maybe it was 50 people, and she and her staff would put out pictures of them, a little description of their lives, and a significant amount of time was devoted to remembering them, remembering their personal lives, so they didn't lose their lives on purpose. That's the kind of dedication to human life that we need. That's what it's all about. I mean, to have that kind of dedication to human life.
Exactly as you said, Mayor. You know, and right now, during the protests, in addition to all the people, thousands upon thousands they killed, some 2,000 members of the MEK have gone missing, whether they're killed or they've been arrested. And all of them, those who survived and are in detention, they're all going to be on death row. Just, 5 days before the start of the war, on 23rd of February, the MEK launched a major assault on the headquarters of Supreme Leader Khamenei using 250 of their members, which is unheard of, in the most secure area in Tehran.
That was very bold.
Working in combination, showing their prowess. But those who have been arrested, and we gave the names of 82 who were among those who were either killed or arrested, they're all going to be on death row. So the attention has to be in stopping these executions. That's one way of building pressure on the Iran regime, holding them accountable. And the regime cannot just get away with these executions of the best of the best, the cream of the crop of the Iranian society who stood up and are fighting for the good cause, and not just, ridding the people of Iran from the repressive rulers, but also, the Iran regime is the epicenter of war and terror. Think about what an impact a free and republic Iran and a non-nuclear, non-aggressive Iran would have in the whole region, in the whole world. And the epicenter of terrorism will dry out. The whole thing that they have about the missiles and nuclear weapons. That's a sea change. That's why I think it's so important for everyone to condemn these executions, to keep the focus, hold the regime accountable, telling them not even a single one of these freedom fighters, those who are standing up for freedom, should be killed.
Well, the president's going to be speaking in a little while. We'll see what he's going to be saying about the war. I'm very hopeful that the pressure is going to be applied to them, and I think it's just going to happen all of a sudden that this regime is just going to crack. I mean, the entire foundation has been attacked. Much of it has been removed because they're so secretive, as they have been throughout. It's impossible to really know exactly the extent of the damage to them. But it's like a building that's hanging on. And we're probably not going to know when we strike the fatal blow. But it's going to happen if we just keep going. It's just going to happen. It's going to happen soon. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mayor. One thing I just want to add is that I think the experience of the past, this is the 5th week now, the past 5 weeks further proves what Mrs. Rajavi, our leader, has repeatedly said, that change in Iran will have to come from on the ground by the people of Iran. And because this regime can sustain attacks, can survive certain situations. That's what they're built for the past 47 years. They use all of the resources of the country in building the network of the Revolutionary Guards, their missile program, their drone program, their proxies. Even though this regime is certainly far weaker than it ever was, but at the end of the day, it requires the force on the ground, the Iranians who are fighting. And I think the fact that the regime started as soon as there is prospect for ending the war one way or the other, as soon as the prospect is in the horizon, the regime started executing the MEK members, telling the Iranian population, telling the regime's own people, telling the world that this is the one place that they are so concerned about. And I think that should show that the one vulnerability that the Revolutionary Guards have, the Achilles heel of the Revolutionary Guards, is actually internal. The people, those who have the audacity to confront the Revolutionary Guards, to fight them, and have all the courage. And that's why I think I'm very hopeful that once dust settles and the war ends, the space will be created for the Iranian people to show their commitment and also to confront the Revolutionary Guards. That's the only way.
Well, thank you very much, Ali Reza. We'll keep in very close touch.
Thank you so much.
It changes
Always
every
a pleasure, and thank you for the great work you're doing, Mayor, in informing the American public, the whole world.
Well, we're going to continue
about the realities and the facts. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your help.
That.
God bless you.
God bless you.
So it would be a real, it would be a real deterrent, I think, if President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, the only ones who seem to have the courage to stand up to these murdering bastards, would note these executions, and these can't become just numbers. These are 4 people that have now been executed, and it's probably going to be folded up into a group of 40,000 or 50,000, including thousands of members of the MEK that have been murdered by this regime. But it's time to just pause on the 4 that were executed, because we don't know a lot of the others. So we do know these 4. And it would be very helpful if Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Trump basically told the reign of terror, the whoever is running the damn thing now, that this is not going to be tolerated. This kind of persecution is just not going to be tolerated. The president did that quite a bit a while ago, and it's continued despite that, if it hasn't gotten worse. So it's about time, and unfortunately, it's too late to get in touch with him now for the speech tonight, but it would be a miracle if maybe he said that tonight, but let's see if we can encourage him to do it over the next couple of days. But I think if it's called to the attention of the world, maybe it'd give a little spine to the Macrons and the Stearmers and the. I have a feeling he's going to basically tell all of them where to go tonight. It was very surprising to see Prime Minister, Secretary of State. He's everything, right? Rubio basically say we don't really. He wonders how much longer we're going to stay in NATO. I don't know. I can't. I used to have a different view. The United Nations, absolutely. I've been in favor of getting out of the United Nations for 25 years. I think it's a total waste of money and a distraction. That effort, that time, that money put into trying to create real useful alliances would be much, much better. And they are enemies of the United States. They vote constantly against our interests. So some quick, you want to keep up with when the president comes on? No, actually, what I have it over here. They have the I see the command center of the of NASA there. Boy, they have a lot of people. Wow. Let me just do a couple of real quickies. I complain a lot about the Department of Buildings, and I said when I was a prosecutor, both an assistant U.S. attorney and U.S. attorney, must have done at least 2 or 3 rounds of prosecuting 30 to 40 members of the New York City Department of Buildings for bribery. And when I became mayor, I had believed, and not only that, I think it had been written, well, one thing that'll happen is the Department of Buildings aren't going to commit any crimes under Giuliani. And I appointed the head of my investigatory effort, was one of my most experienced and best prosecutors and best lawyers, Howard Wilson. And boy, if you committed a crime, Howard Wilson would get you and he'd prosecute you, as Congressman Mario Biaggi found out. One day, Howard walks into my office and he said, I guess we were wrong. And Howard had rounded up about 20 or 30 of them in a big bribery scheme while I was mayor. So here they announced today a former city Department of Building supervisor pocketed more than $75,000 in bribes by fast-tracking hundreds of construction deals around the Big Apple, using the money to fund a lavish lifestyle that included trips to Japan. Jack Uday was indicted on bribery and conspiracy charges in Manhattan Supreme Court. Prosecutors said Uday, who now lives in East Strasburg, Pennsylvania, used his position, this is a supervisor now, as a supervisor, to direct projects to his team of plan examiners for approval in exchange for substantial amounts of cash from the construction companies. The scheme ran from June of 2021 to March of 2025. That's a long time. It involved construction company owners Ji Yuan Huang, 50, Anson Tisei, and Shiming Tam. All four defendants pleaded not guilty, and they were released as the charges are not bail eligible. I mean, nothing is bail eligible. Which means the people that are sitting in Rikers Island are some of the most dangerous people you ever met. And the communist, Muslim extremist, murderer-loving mayor of New York wants to release them. Because beyond being a communist extremist and a supporter of Islamic murderers, he basically wants to see ultimate chaos in New York. People say, well, why would he do that? Gosh, would you please get educated and read? He's a communist, and that's what Karl Marx taught him to do. And everybody else that writes on communism. What do you think it means to be a communist? They don't go to church and pray. They're supposed to create chaos so they can bring down this horrible government of the United States. And his wife looks like she's several steps ahead of him. I don't know. Do you really want to discuss Tiger Woods? I guess we should. I like Tiger Woods, but this is unacceptable, Tiger. What is you're not going to let somebody drive you? First of all, your driver's license should be revoked for the rest of your life. You're a lifetime offender now. How many times do you come this close to killing somebody? I know there are a lot of people that get angry that people feel bad for you, and I do. I feel very, very bad for you, and I like you, and I admire what you have accomplished in a certain part of life. But that doesn't take away from the fact that you are a mortal danger to children. And no matter who you are, they got to take that damn license out of your hands. And the next time you see him behind the wheel of a car, you should get arrested. I don't know if you should do time or not. I'd have to be the judge and take a good look at it. Maybe yes, maybe, as an example to other people. It's a 1-year sentence, but whether you do time or not, much more important, I think, taking that damn license away from you. You want to go for rehabilitation, fine, but that's not going to lead to you getting a driver's license. You are never going to drive for the rest of your life. And if you're seen behind the wheel of a car, there should be an order, a permanent order. You just automatically go to jail. That'd be the best thing for you. If somebody cared about you, they would recommend that. Because how the hell are you going to live with the fact that you killed some kid? I don't know what's going on, Ted, with the Republican Party, but Ricky Schlott, who we should get on the show maybe tomorrow or the next night, has done this excellent article about how we have a Groyper problem. Now, I don't even know what Groyper means, but I think it means, among other things, to hate Jews. So the college Republicans of America elected as their president Brigham Young University student Kai Schwimmer. He's the past political director. His experience in politics is being affiliated with Nick Fuentes, a blowhard Nazi, Hitler lover, and Lenin lover, and now Trump hater, and massive hatred of the Jewish people. That, I mean, he can't avoid it, and a complete asshole of the worst kind. That makes up history, believes in blood libel for the Jewish people. What are you, some kind of witch? You think a curse can come down for 2,000 years? You got to be some kind of witch. You listen to his interview with Tucker Carlson, in which Tucker put him on his lap, and I thought he was going to kiss him a couple of times. And then compare it to the interview with Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan just destroyed him. And with the fact that, have you ever had sex? No. And he's 27 years old. We got a weirdo there. And unfortunately, he's got a following in my party. Well, I don't know if they're really Republicans. They call themselves young Republicans. These are people that were all, I don't know. Schwimmer is, Ricky concludes that Schwimmer is almost tame compared to some of the others. At Florida International University, WhatsApp had a whole thing that was leaked, a chat, in which college Republicans were flouting anti-Semitism, using the N-word. They used the N-word in one chat more than 400 times. And also, they were joking about maybe it'd be a good idea to crucify black people. And Florida International University president condemned the group chat as abhorrent and extremely disturbing. And the police department was investigating it. Well, I hope they found people. Investigating it isn't good enough. Then in October, there was another leaked thing calling black people monkeys, praising Hitler, and discussing raping their enemies. University of Florida had to disband the Florida Federation of College Republicans. And this is not left wing going. They did it because they were performing Nazi salutes as part of their routine. Maybe some, guys on a football team should beat the shit out of them. I know that's not right. I know that's not right. I just grew up that way.
That's a Brooklyn coming out in you.
Yeah. It's like the guys when I was in high school that used to like to go harass gay people and wanted me to go with them. That's when I became a supporter of gay rights. It was when I was a kid. What the hell are you beating them up for? Because they have a different lifestyle. I don't know. Even if you think they're committing a sin, we don't go around beating up people that are committing a sin. They go to confession for that. What am I going to do? Wait outside the confessional and beat the shit out of everybody after they went to confession? I mean, it's sick. And then I had some, I don't think they were even classmates of mine, just guys that would hang around in that area of Brooklyn. And one day I went with them on a walk. They went to the Brooklyn Bridge and they were throwing cats off the Brooklyn Bridge with wire around the cat. So they'd snap the cat's neck. I reported them to the police. just like when we got hit a year ago. I mean, I've been like this since I was a kid. Right. I don't know. I think I was appointed the sheriff of the world or something. A judge has halted. You care about people. A judge has halted construction on the White House ballroom. How can he do that? What does a judge have to do with the White House ballroom? Plus, the fact is that the president didn't want to have to say this, but it came out because of all the litigation. They're building a gigantic bunker below it, and you got to put something on top of it that they have a bunker below it where our government can function if it has to. You think that's unnecessary in the world that we live in? Go take a look at how far North Korea can get bombs now. Or I guess we're still counting on the fact that Putin and Xi Jinping are rational. Hopefully they are. If they aren't, we got a catastrophe that we would have to face. I was going to cover, but don't have the time, that the splitter is back in basketball and baseball. Splitter had been gone for a while. That was a great pitch that many Yankees used, and the Red Sox, Toronto Blue Jay Yankee pitcher who they won't put in the Hall of Fame because of steroids, Roger Clemens, who deserves to be in it, more than 90% of the people in the Hall used it to great effect. I mean, he began as a college pitcher. I remember Roger as a college pitcher for Texas, I guess, in the College World Series, and his fastball was like, it looked to me the first time I saw him pitch for the Red Sox that if you hit the ball, it would hurt your hands.
Wow.
And then why did he have such a long career? Because he mixed the fastball, which probably went down from 101 to about 95, 96, right? He could have gone down to 91 and 92 like it did for Rivera and Guidry, but they would mix it with another pitch. And of course, Rivera had a magic pitch. It was like a 97-mile-an-hour screwball or knuckleball. Let's see what the president says tonight about the war. Let's hope he says we're gonna fight it to absolute destruction of this regime, because we can't. This is our opportunity. If we miss this, it'll be a historical. Anything less will be considered a defeat. You can spin it up and down and all around, and if you don't eliminate this regime, it's a defeat. Substantively, I mean, the press would probably paint a absolute destruction of the regime and a change of regime as a defeat. Anyway, anything he does can be a defeat, but there'd be some substance to the fact that we started this thing. We made some very serious threats, and then we didn't finish it. We didn't finish what we started. And I know there's a lot of pressure to do that, but it's very unwise in every respect, including political. Artemis II is on its way, and it got off just great. I mean, there was always right up until the last minute, if you've ever followed these, and a lot of these go back to a time when I was young, and it would happen a lot. There'd be a lot of missions, and you got to really know about them and understand them. And there were many that would get delayed. Sometimes you sit there all day waiting for it to take off, and then I go over to the next day. And there was always a window of only a certain amount of time they could delay it, then they could call it off and restart everything either the next day or 2 days later. And of course, we had some terrible tragedies. But the getting to the moon politically and scientifically was an unbelievable accomplishment. But just as important were all of the unbelievable life-saving things that emerged from NASA's creative and historic research. So I see that continuing. This is a 10-day mission. We'll keep you informed all along the way of exactly what's happening. There'll be some key moments. We've already had some. The launch, the jettison of the solid rocket boosters, and the abort system that I showed you with when I was playing with Grace. She and I are now, when we get off, are gonna do some rocket simulations together. I promised her before she goes to bed, we'll do some rocket simulations. I did it with this. You might not have seen that part with this, and then the two on the side like this here, the two right on the side like that. And they fell away, and this came off. And now it's a little more will come off along the way. When it comes back, it's really going to be amazing how much smaller it is. The first time I saw that, I couldn't understand how that thing got through space. And the first time that it happened, coming back, please, I don't take this the wrong way. I just got to tell you that what to be coming back is very dangerous. The reentry, the speed of it, and having to slow that speed down before you hit the ocean, which is why you don't land on Earth, is a trick. But I think God is watching over this. I do. Then the main engine actually shuts off. And then there's an apogee burner on there. What that apogee burner does, that's not on now. That's going to go on, and I'm not sure exactly when, but fairly soon in the mission, because that propels you to outer space, into a high Earth orbit. You got to do that first before you can start doing an orbit of the moon. And then there'll be a separation of the Orion from the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. So that's going to be another part of the rocket, which I can show you if you want. That's another part of the rocket that's going to be, that's going to be, if you take a look at this, when I showed this, a lot of people probably didn't know what we were talking about. That tip, the tip has already gone, like I just showed with the pens. The two solid rocket boosters, gone. Eventually, the apogee raise a burner, which is right here, the Orion stage adapter, this space is right in that area right there, is going to take over and propel it into Earth orbit. And then this cryogenic propulsion system, a lot of that is going to separate, and for an upper stage burn, which sends it into a trans-lunar orbit. And then when they fall off, and that core stage rocket takes over, we can go back. Then they're going to spend a day, maybe less, heading directly to the moon, like this, right to the moon. And then when they get there, they got to get there at exactly the right time. They have a little time when they can wait around for the conditions to be perfect in order to be able to orbit the moon and get around to the backside. There will be a period of time when they're going around to the backside, when we're cut off, or when NASA Central is cut off from them, which is a very, 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 very tense period of time. And then they will they'll orbit the outer fringe of the orbit of the moon, which means they'll go to the back of the moon, which has never been done before. And that is being done because we're going to land there. And this mission is one, to make sure that this rocket can handle a trip to the moon and a landing there. Right now, it looks fine. Who knows? There could have been a couple of things wrong that they have to fix that are not life-threatening, thank God. And there'll probably be some others that have to be fixed, because it could be another mission in less than a year similar to this. And then, as soon as they do the lunar flyby, then they head back to the Earth. And the crew module separates from everything, including, I would think, even the spacecraft adapter that you see there. I think that's gone. Everything in the back is gone. And then that module there, the crew module, comes back. I think with the service module, but I'm not sure. When it says crew module separation, I'm not sure if that doesn't separate as well. But when it splashes down, you're just going to see a capsule. I don't know if you're going to see one capsule or two capsules. but you're definitely going to see the crew module. So that whole big thing turns into just eventually the module. So,
You want to watch? I guess we have 9-10 days.
oh, correctly.
So, we'll keep an eye on them and Godspeed. I mean, that's quite the journey, quite the small space to be in for 9 days.
I think we should know before we sign off. I did make this point yesterday, but it was repeated today that the Gulf states are, in fact, requesting that the president continue this to elimination of the regime. And that means no more theocratic government in Iran. And as long as we've done all this and sacrificed lives and treasure and everything else, what the hell is wrong with trying to make sure there's a democracy there? I know nation building and all that crap, but we used to be pretty damn good at nation building in Japan and Italy and Germany. Isn't that a question of execution? Who do you have? You have jerks, or you have responsible people doing it. If you have responsible people doing it, like the people who did it in Japan under General MacArthur, and the people who did it in Italy, and the people who did it in Germany, you end up with long-term friends. Maybe they were friends for a long time until they turned out that they're not. And I would not put Japan in that same category at all. Japan doesn't legitimately have a constitutional legal issue about what they can do about military, and we imposed it on them. Italy doesn't, Germany doesn't, France doesn't, England certainly doesn't. They've been with us in so many things, and they're as affected, if not more affected, by this than we are. Which is why I think the president finds it very, very difficult to bear the burden of straightening out the Straits of Hormuz, right? When it benefits them a lot more than it benefits us, and they don't want to do a damn thing about it. We hope that this MEK execution thing is not a pattern. There are the two people that have been arrested, and it doesn't seem like there'd be much of a reason to arrest them unless you're going to kill them. So we'll keep watching. Last report on the rocket. It's still moving along safely, Ted?
Still moving along safely. We're monitoring.
And the president?
The president has spoken. I believe he's speaking now.
Oh, I thought we were going to you were going to let me know. We were going to get off.
Yep, it's time to get off. Either way, it's 9:20, so it's time to.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize the president was speaking.
He is not. I mean, I'm looking
for.
Oh,
he's not speaking yet.
But he could be any minute now. So.
Well, while you're waiting, go to Dr. Maria. She's on right now. But what I really recommend is that you put her on after the president's on, or tomorrow morning, because she's there for the whole day into the next day, back again on Friday night. And we're back tomorrow at 7. And we'll see where we are. And at 8 on X. And I really thank you very much for joining us. It means a great deal to us. And I hope that we're giving you a lot of the things that you don't get elsewhere, and perspectives and explanations that you don't get elsewhere. That's what our aim is, so that we have a country of very well-informed citizens, because that's what protects democracy. Well-informed citizens, not make-believe citizens like we've unfortunately, the Democrats want to create in mass numbers. Argument of the Supreme Court was about that today. How much of us, do you really think when they passed that amendment, they really passed it in order to make America a sucker? A country that will accept anybody, including people that are vowing to destroy us, as we do now? I think the president is speaking.
Yep.
Well, let's go right to the president, and we will sign off. And there's always time to remind you to pray for Israel, for Ukraine, for Iran, for the United States, for that gentleman that hopefully you're seeing on your screen right now, because he carries the burdens of the world. More so than most presidents, really, because of the unbelievably weak allies that we have, which is one of the reasons the world's in the condition that it's in. God bless him, Donald J. Trump, and God bless America. We'll see you tomorrow. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common sense. So let's do it. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common sense. So let's do it. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and